Take a look. Professor Tom Danger. Oh, he white, y'all. Oh, my God. That's like a food stamp. Oh, this brother's going to be hot. No, he is a brother. He's a brother from another mother. And my friend, Tom, welcome to the show, man. It's so good to have you. We're being socially distant as we're supposed to be. I've been dying to have this conversation for my own personal reasons because I think of the Jane Elliott, and you guys may be familiar with her. She's the one that conducted the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experiment. And she said, it's not up to, like, pretty much, and I'm paraphrasing one of her statements, it's not up to, like, us as African Americans to change people's mind about racism and isms, right? It's up to white people to do it, you know? Not saying that's solely their job. I'm just saying there's credibility when someone stands there and says, hey, this is not right, or this is right, or stands up for what he or she believes in, and then teaches that point with facts and changes minds within. That's a reality. We're all human. We all take in ideologies because they're learned, you know? And when you have someone out there that's teaching within these major agencies, as Tom is, you need to understand that there are sources. What is law enforcement doing? How are they training? Well, we're about to get in it. All right. So, Tom, what's going on, man?
Nothing much, Clee. It is an honor to be here. I love the title because you've been a mentor to me since I came on the job a long time ago, and just working under you and with you. So it's great to be here.
The problem is we may get into some Cleon, some CJ, Tom stories, and I'm trying to hold my disciplines. We don't get into all of them, but this guy is just phenomenal. I'll accept. I'll embrace that. For a minute, I was a mentor, but this guy was already phenomenal. And where he's taking things, where he's tried to take me, I said, no, it's you. You're the one that's got to do this because you're credible in this, you know. So tell us a little bit about, what you're doing within your agency and what it's about. You have something that's called the Police Science and Leadership Program. Just tell us about that.
Absolutely. So bear with me. I'm going to make this a bit of a running jump. There's some history behind this.
Okay, go for it.
Back in 2015, there was some controversy in policing as well. And we had things happening in Ferguson and whatnot. And a lot of things were bubbling up. And back then, President Obama created the Presidential Task Force on 21st Century Policing.
Yes.
People from all over the country came together and they created this final report. This final report came up with recommendations, a good number of recommendations, and 6 pillars. We did really well. The LAPD actually did really well in this. We had senior lead officer programs, gang intervention programs, community safety partnership programs. So we came back feeling pretty good about ourselves, saying this is what we did. City council members, police commission said, well, you can't sail on yesterday's wind. What's next? What if you're going to be a leader, what's next?
Okay.
The next was this police science and leadership. Police science and leadership is an amalgamation. It's the end result of a lot of minds coming together. Citizens, city attorneys, medical professionals, communication workers, members from special weapons teams, members from vice, people from myself from education, and said, how can we make policing better? Where do we fall short? It hadn't hit full steam yet. Concepts like bias, implicit bias, procedural justice, guardian versus warriors. These are all new topics that we're starting to trickle out there. Now they're ubiquitous. They're all over. We were some of the first to implement this in training, create a course that was designed around these items, designed around the mentality of, can we transition officers from a warrior mindset to a guardian mindset? Can we be protectors? Now, there are times when protectors have to do things that might be, for lack of a better word, violent. It's just the nature of it. Sometimes protecting people involves that. But how do we engage in these mechanisms and engage in these behaviors in a way that's respectful, in a way that engenders trust with the community? Because no matter how you look at it, force has a ripple effect throughout a community. So that force has to be justified, it has to be legitimate, and you have to build that trust with the community prior to that use of force.
You talked about the warrior versus the guardian. Give the ideology between both concepts? Because that's a very big point for law enforcement.
Absolutely. And the idea is there is a culture around policing that sort of embraces this sheepdog mentality. I'm the sheepdog. In order to catch a wolf, you got to be a wolf. You know, you go back to the Training Day and all the Hollywood stuff that is policing. And the reality is that's not policing. The vast majority of policing are men and women dealing with people in the community that have problems. And most of those problems are social problems. It is the rare occasion a police officer shows up and there's a bank robbery or there's somebody with the kidnapping going into a car.
Very true.
They happen, but they're rare. These are rare events. And the idea is when you walk around all day with this warrior mentality, I borrow the phrase, it's like when every tool in your toolbox is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. When you look at through the lens of a warrior, you're bypassing all the regular people that are out there. Yeah, where's the bad guy? Where's the bad guy? Oh, here's a mother. Here's children. I don't want to see them. I don't want to see them. I'm looking for bad. You maybe look bad because the person I arrested before kind of looks like you, and you start making these weak connections to try to find the bad guy. That's a warrior because you're just looking. And when you're a guardian, you want to see all people in your community, and even those not committing crime. Because you're there to protect them. You're there to mentor them. You're there to be a support network for them. The idea behind policing, I don't know why it says right on the door, to protect and to serve. Every police agency has some form of this. We're really good at protecting. We've fallen short on the service. And for some reason, service has like a negative connotation to it.
Why do you think that when you talk about culture? Now, this is in your perspective for the big agencies around you and within yourself. Why is that pertinent?
I could only venture a guess because I'm from Chicago, so I've been around a lot of big agency police departments as well, even there in the Midwest. It's just the human factor of the excitement that goes with it. It's just I want to have the bravado. I want to be known as this. And that's fine. There's nobility in that, but the nobility should be found in what's hard. The nobility of policing should be found in what's difficult to do, not it's easy to run and chase somebody. Yeah. It's difficult to talk with people before they get to the point that you got to chase them.
I want to tell you guys, I got to tell a Tom story. Now, this one, I don't think he knows I know, but I dealt with in a chapter 2 of what he did. So we both worked together as supervisors where we worked at the same in the same area, Mid-City. And there was a family that came to an African-American family that came to the desk and they were looking for Tom. We don't want to talk to anybody, but we just want to talk to Tom. Well, you had already left. You went on to bigger and better things and science and all that stuff, think tank stuff.
Yeah.
They were left with me. I was working as the watch commander and I came out and I met them. And I look like them. So I'm thinking in my mind, this is going to be easy. I'm black. They're black. I'm smiling. They should be, but no, they did not want to talk to me.
Really?
They wanted to talk to Tom. So when I listened to him, I said, you know what? Let me just ask you why. Can I ask you why? Well, I'll tell you what. The father came. He says, our next door neighbor has been driving us crazy. She's dumping trash on her driveway. And when Tom came out, he didn't just give us lip service. He followed up and he made sure the problem he followed through. He followed up with phone calls afterwards. It was a follow through. We didn't expect him to solve the problem overnight, but he stayed with it like a pit bull till the problem resolved momentarily. And I said, I know Tom. I've been working with Tom. Trust me when I say we're going to do all we can to finish following through on this. And it worked out. That is brilliant. And you don't know it or not, but the captain at the time was battling whether to make either myself or you the senior lead sergeants at the time.
Okay.
In his head, he's like, I don't know which one. And I said, you know what? I said, hey, just take Tom, because he's got the right man. But you had left,
right?
And I gladly did the job. But the reason is, it went beyond color. It went beyond service. Now let me close this out by saying I was invited to a comedy store it was Cops in Comedy, where they invited me as a community sergeant to talk about police issues and comedy, right? Mm-hmm. And to close this out to see what people really wanted. Now let's take all the shootings and stuff and let's take that out right now. Let's go to bare minimum. If I'm going day by day, I'm going to live this 24 hours. This is what I want. So I said, hey, so what do we really want? So we only spent 5 minutes talking about the social media, what they saw on YouTube. One person stand up and he stood up and he said, you know what? I just want an officer to walk into my business like they do in Hollywood or West LA and drop flyers on my desk and say hello, you know? Then the ripple effect started. Another lady said, you know what? Yeah, I don't mind getting pulled over, but I don't want to be asked where I'm going, or what I'm doing. If I did something wrong, either give me a ticket or give me a warning. It sounded like to me what they wanted was the kind of human decency and respect that everybody wants. But I'm not sure that, I'm not going to say the officers don't know that, but the culture, where I'm at, where I'm working dictates that. So yes. That's where I'm figuring where the relationships begin and develop. What do you think about that?
It's 100% true. I've dealt with officers who get pulled into this concept of work in the busy areas. And the busy areas tend to be those that are economically challenged, people who are struggling to get by, and there just happens to be more crime in these areas. There's more desperation in these areas, so there's more crime. You ask them, why do you want to work there? Well, because it's busy. Well, because it's exciting. Nobody ever says, because these people need me. Because there's people here that need protection. Because these people that live in this area need someone they can look up to, need someone they can count on, need someone they can rely on. And I think they have it wrong. When they sit in their interview for policing, they say, I want to help my community. I want to give back. They're right on the money. And I think somehow when it goes through the sausage-making machine of training them, we almost beat it out of them. It almost is like, you can't be weak. You can't show mercy. Don't call this person sir. You only call victims sir. It's this bizarre culture of like, I don't want to show weakness. And any type of vulnerability is looked at as a weakness.
But does that go beyond, let's say, academy training, which we both know has changed drastically? Mm-hmm. When I was a kid, it was Starsky and Hutch. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't sexy unless they were in the hood, chasing the pimp. So, and to them, I don't know, for somebody looking at that's not from California that wants to be a police officer in the California area, they're like, yeah, that's exciting. It's not necessarily a racial thing. It's exciting. And I want to be that. I want something and then they get here and they got to realize it's a whole diaspora of people here, of people that are working, different cultures, different, it's just an amazing thing to see. So, but I want to do a deeper dive in that, but I want to break free just a little bit to talk about what made you want to become a police officer. What did it for you? Because I read your background. I feel bad. I feel like I was the wealthy one, and you're the Fresh Prince.
I'll tell you what. And this is an interesting. It's an interesting story, and I could take this a few different ways. Growing up in the South Side of Chicago, Bridgeport, I hated the police. Hated. All of us did.
Me too. I did.
Right?
It's the truth.
I mean, I remember multiple stories of cops, and cops that looked like me, cops that didn't look like me. They treated people bad. This was a poor part of town in the South Side of Chicago. And this is when I try to have conversation with my community members, I try to impress upon them, like, I do know what you're thinking. When I first got my driver's license at 16 years old, my grandmother took my license, she took a paperclip, and she folded a $10 bill, which at that time was money. That's money for us. She put the $10 bill behind the license, and she said, now, if you ever get pulled over, you hand them this driver's license. That license is going to come back to you, and that $10 bill is going to be gone. You don't argue. No matter what. If you didn't turn left, but they see you, you just say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. You don't argue and do anything.
So wait. So you had to talk too?
Yes, I had to talk. Wait,
so you mean white people talk to their kids about the talk?
Well, especially in Bridgeport.
Okay.
Because it happens. And I know that's strange. I've told some of my black friends this, and they say the same thing, like, wait a minute. What do you got to be worried about? Man, they didn't like me either. They even said, Bridgeporter. As Bridgeport kids, they didn't like us because we were poor. But imagine somebody like your mother giving you, your grandmother, my grandmother giving me the $10 bill with the paperclip. Like, that's how corrupt it was. Nobody was like, we're going to call internal affairs. We're going to get to the bottom of this.
Wow.
We're white. You can't do this to us. Like, no. They were scared too. Everybody was scared.
Wow.
I never wanted to be a police officer. It was the last thing I wanted to be. Okay, so the trajectory goes like this. I fought my way out of the poverty of the South Side of Chicago, got my way to the North Side, started chipping my way into college, and I did a bunch of things, and I got myself educated, and I was working at the university. I'm an adjunct professor, so I'm not on a tenure track just yet. I'm an adjunct professor, and I love it. And I just love teaching. And I love being around the youth and energy of the kids. What I come to realize was it was like a moment of like observation. I noticed whether I was here or not, these kids were going to be successful.
Okay.
They made it to a Division I college. Like, they were going to make it. Now, I added value to their life. I gave them good cogent arguments. I challenged the status quo. I challenged their thinking. But they were going to make it. And I wanted more. And I said, what about the kids that never even think of going to high school? Like, what about those kids?
Wow.
I want to make an impact in people that don't have this, that gets them to this university. I want to be an impact to people that have nobody, and they can't see past the end of the block. That's their neighborhood.
Wow.
I looked into Chicago. I didn't like it. I didn't like what I saw because it reminded me too much, and it's an archaic. It's gotten better, obviously, but it was
Clearly,
an archaic.
yes. Those are
so
years ago, yeah.
I did a search, and I came across some of these other agencies, and I threw my name in a hat, and it was 3 months later. 3 months later, I was here.
Wow.
And I didn't know anybody out here. I was living in a hotel right off of some of the streets there where the academy was, and that was it. I mean, it was just to get away from that style of policing and look at something that appeared to be a much more professional, much more organized way of policing.
You know what I find out? I find out people that, and some people are afraid to say that they hated the police before being police officers. But I find that people that I talk to that are doing really well or are considered respected on the department had that thought process before getting in. I saw when I got in, I don't know if you saw, I was expecting there be a brainwashing machine.
Right.
They're going to teach me how to punch, kick somebody in the head or hit them 3 times in the head with a baton. That didn't happen. In fact, the policies were cleaner than the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just think when we talk about that quasi-military way and then approaching the public, I thought that needed to be fixed over time.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think it was the individual. If you had a sour individual, I've been dying to ask a white person this.
Yo, outstanding. I'm your guy.
Okay, so I got a white person here with me, a white officer. And I know you're not speaking for all because, the civil unrest. I know a lot of my brothers and sisters out there are suffering mentally. They feel like they're villainized. How does it feel? It's almost like the table's like turned to a degree where you're the villain.
Yeah.
It's like when I see the media, white officer killed another black guy. How do you feel? How do you internalize it, or can you speak for? I mean, how do you feel about that before we continue?
I appreciate you asking. It is a strange phenomenon. I had a conversation with somebody we both know, a gentleman of color, and when I tell him my story, he's always surprised, like, "Wow, I never thought white people grow up in the inner city. I never thought this happens." And so I come to this profession with a different frame of mind. I came to this profession to make it better. But it's interesting, and I now have empathy for people of color that have to navigate this world with a certain label on them.
Wow.
Right? So I understand. Like, I get it because I'm now navigating this world with a label. I'm racist until proven innocent. It's just the cross I bear.
That is so human.
Well, and so
that is so human.
And I have conversations like, I get what you're feeling, and I understand why you're mad. So for me, I don't look at this as like, woe is me. I almost look at it like I was meant to be in this position to only increase the empathy I have.
You know what? I want to give, if you're watching, and you want to call in and have this conversation, I want you involved in that. I cannot see my Facebook Live for my people to answer their questions, but you can call in the studio, 323-815-4204. It's 323-815-4204. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just want to make sure that this is good. If you guys ever want to have a real honest conversation and you keep it positive, we're trying to progress forward here together. So let's keep it positive. We have questions. Let's ask away. We got the guy here, I want to come back to that feeling, but I definitely want to talk about what our major agencies, such as like in Los Angeles, what PSL is doing, what it has done, what it entails. And these people need to know that officers are coming back for this revisiting. Explain that process so our public's informed.
The neatest thing about this training is how we've designed it. Typically, in training in large agencies, you have big rooms, people from all different walks of life, people from all different tenures, different sections and areas, all coming together to get training. And when you have that kind of dynamic, people with more time on the job tend to dominate. And people with less time tend to be quiet. People that work busy areas tend to be real bravado. People that work quieter areas tend not to engage. What we did was we said, we're going to bring back an entire academy class. So this academy class graduated 11 months ago. They were scattered out into the city and they were doing probation. We bring them back right before they make probation. And these kids haven't seen each other. I call them kids. Right. They haven't seen each other. And you could see the energy when they walk. You're like, what's up? Look at your hair. Like, what's going on?
They still look like kids.
Dude, you got gained weight. You know, like you see this dynamic. It's instant. They're hugging each other. And it's like, it doesn't matter that this person works 77, this person works whatever it is, or this person works down in Compton, or this person works in Long Beach. No, it doesn't matter. Because you're all from the same class. It just doesn't matter. So they're just hugging on each other, and I let them have their moment. And I'm like, how long has it been? And you start talking to them, and what we learned is you have instant synergy. Because now nobody's got a posture.
Right.
Nobody's got to say where they're from. It don't matter, because they saw you when you were messing up. They saw you when you couldn't do a sit-up. You know, so all that stuff is gone. Now, the neat thing is the young officer is open to this. And we designed it like this. We tried this with some senior people, and it was not received well. We gave a few pilots with people with 10 years, 15 years, and it was conflict, pushback, never going to happen.
Culturally stuck.
Yeah, they couldn't get out of it. We'd have a few people come up and say, hey, man, I like it.
Right.
Like, well, where were you? Why didn't you step up?
Why do you stand?
Yes.
Because I can't.
Right? Can't. So we get these, and they're all in.
Right.
These kids don't know policing without a camera. These kids don't know that this is all, it's all in for them. And we start talking about bias. We start talking about procedural justice. We start talking about all the topics that are contemporary and that are in their face right now. And we wash down all the hierarchy of this, of the policing profession. It's very militaristic. They call it paramilitary. Yeah. We wash all that away. My name's Tom. Your name's Cleon. We're human beings. Right. We happen to occupy the same profession. I just started this before you did. What's going on? How's it been? What's happening? What do you like? And it takes about a day. That first day, they're like, no, this ain't real. Man. Right. They're watching us. And by that second day, they start cutting loose. And they're like, let me tell you about this crappy PE training officer I had. Okay, get after it. You know, we ain't going to say anything. Like, what's good? Oh, I had that training officer. They were terrible. Oh, I had this one. They were bad. And then they start opening up and they start sharing. And when we learn about things like bias, okay, you give somebody an order saying go to bias training, you're like, I'm going to bias training. You know, like these kids are like, okay, so tell me what this is. What is it? I keep hearing about it. It's going on. I see orders. And what is it? And we get people that come in like, you know, Dr. Marks comes in and, you know, does a big presentation. We come in, do presentations. And what we say is, look, bias is not racist. Bias is not even prejudiced. I go like this. If we had to change a light bulb on this thing, would you use a ladder or a swivel chair? Like you'd use a ladder. Why? Are you biased against swivel chairs? No, because my experience told me ladders are more stable. Okay, and then we expand that out to the young officers. Bias is just what your experience has told you.
Right.
And unfortunately, young man, you've been working this inner city community for 11 months, so that's all you see. And because change happens slowly, there's still a lot of that warrior mentality. So you see bad guys. You don't see the person just waiting on the bus stop, waiting to go to work every day.
Right.
Right. You don't. When I worked in inner city community, that was high immigrant community. I remember coming into the station and they'd be making soup in the morning, and I remember I'd leave 12 hours later and they were selling clothes, and I'm like, man, this lady's been out here 12 hours.
Yeah.
And she's staying. I'm going home and she's staying. Like it gave me a true sense of empathy. I'm coming back tomorrow for them because they need to make sure they're not going to get shaken down. They need to make sure that whatever $30, $40 they make in cash, they're not going to get rolled up and that money's gone and they just spent 16 hours making it.
You know, when you invited my brother and I to speak in front of some of these kids, and when I walked in the room, they knew me because I was their PT instructor, their PT supervisor. And you know, I could call myself a pioneer in moving forward in that direction. So they kind of lit up.
Oh, yeah.
I felt that freedom. You know, and I felt comfortable. I was like, hey, I just rolled on the board. I'm Cleon.
Yep.
And then I was able to share some of the experiences I had as a young officer that, you know, I'll be glad to share on his show pretty soon about my experiences. And I was able to open up in a way to like, they go, yeah, okay, yeah, this is awesome. They were relaxed.
Yes.
You appreciated I found the strong suit of the millennial right then and there.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm okay with a millennial constantly asking why.
Absolutely.
I
encourage
it. And how does that process work? So they come in a year after, and then they have to come back how does that work?
So ideally, we want to see them every 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
So I see you right at that 11-month mark, about a year, you're off on your own. You're going to change divisions. You're going to go off. We'd like to see you in 2 years. Come on back. Have any of you guys taken a detective test? Have any of you guys done P3? Has anything happened to anybody? And the idea is this. When you have these large organizations, these ships are like aircraft carriers in an ocean. And if somebody falls off an aircraft carrier, that ship doesn't stop.
Right.
So if one of these kids gets hurt, if one of these kids gets sick, the ship can't stop. What we're trying to do is foster a class that stays with each other from a bad choice, from cradle to grave of their career, not of their humanity, but from the cradle of their career to the end of their career, they stay with each other. I have classmates. The vast majority of classmates I've never seen again. We graduated. I maybe keep in touch with 2 of them. I won't know them. I haven't seen them. I probably will never see them again. These kids stay in touch with each other.
Wow.
They get the WhatsApp and they get the little things and they're like, oh no, sir, we keep in touch. Like we reinforce that bond. Remember what the academy's a great experience. And then we just let it go. We lose it. We never took advantage of that.
Right.
We're trying to take advantage of that synergy and then have that carry on throughout the rest of their career.
It's nice to hear that from what I've seen, that some of these young men and women are actually asking questions and standing up to their leaders when they see something that's getting ahead of something. You know, it's not like when I came along, you and I were like, oh Lord, if I say the wrong thing, you know, or if I stand up here, I'll be talked about all over the.
Yes.
I like the atmosphere. It feels different for them to where they feel bolder into being themselves. And usually when I would instruct or be invited, you'd see the old mentality. Who's this guy think he is?
Right.
I did not see that with these kids, and I saw the future of the department. So for me personally, when I see the social environment, when they say police aren't training, they aren't being retrained, I just want to scream, yes, we are. We've been doing that.
And to that point, what I would say is, I'll use my aircraft analogy.
Yes, please.
You can't. This isn't a short-term proposition.
Right.
I'm trying to change a culture. This doesn't happen immediately. So what we're doing is I'm investing in these young officers. I've trained about 1,300 officers. The most tenured officer has 4 years on the job. They're in no position to make any kind of change yet. But that 4-year officer will be a P3 one day or a training officer one day. That training officer will be a sergeant one day. I'm investing. This is a long-term investment strategy. So when I tell people in the community, like, I understand you want change that's immediate, I'm planting a tree like this big. I'm planting a seedling. I'm not trying to take a big tree and dump it in the ground and hope it takes. I'm planting something so the roots are strong and this young officer carries on traditions and makes it better.
Wow.
That's the idea behind it. It's a slow process.
And I do have to say, this didn't start yesterday. We've been doing this since 2016. Mm-hmm. So this was before all the, all what's going on now. So this is, I want to tell you, this is not new, but it is something that you need to understand and have confidence in, that you're talking about a couple of pioneers and one guy that's actually in the mix doing it every day, just helping change that culture. That is just so awesome. Well, I got another question. Okay. So let's talk about, are you getting any resistance? We talked about the older officers. What about maybe an officer that might have been trained by crotchety old 20-year vet? Do you get that? How do you deal with that? Well, I love my TO and I believe. What do you?
We started writing their names when we first started this. We'd write their names and we'd write their division. At about a year and a half in, we said, we're going to stop writing their division. And among the staff, we're going to see if we could guess where they're from. And we're right about 75% of the time. If we're not right on the division, we know the area. You know what I mean? I know if you're north of this freeway. I know if you're south of this freeway. I might not get the division, but I am in the general area because you can tell their attitude. And it's usually that first day. And that first day, we all wait and we're like, okay, where are they from? Where are they from? And you could tell this bureau, that bureau, whatever, this area, this precinct. And that's what I see. The people that come from certain precincts that are traditionally, what would you call them? Busy. Mm-hmm. Busy divisions.
Or high crime active. Yes.
High crime active. They're the ones that are going to give a little resistance. If there's now, in the 1,300 officers, maybe 2. Like just want nothing to do with it.
Like this is completely bullcrap.
Yep. And it's like you can't, I'll take that. I'll take 2 out of 1,300. They were disengaged the whole time. When class was over, they just got up and they walked out. Okay, like I can't get you. But you know what? I'm not going to let you frustrate me because I got 30 other kids.
You're reaching somebody.
Yeah, so that's fine. I'm not going to let you poison it because if I got one, but I got these guys and gals, we're going to get after it. So most of the resistance is not there. Now, here's where the resistance come in. By day 4, they'll say, Tom, Sarge, we want to do this. The problem is above us. They're not letting us do this. I want to give the best service, but I got people saying, let's go, handle it and get out of here. I want to come back and say, hey, I made 45 contacts today, but they're told, you didn't make an arrest. And I think this is the problem. When you have people forcing adversarial relationships, I'm trying to encourage positive relationships, but people above me are saying, I want you to engage in adversarial relationships because that's what we're measuring. Mm-hmm. And what gets measured gets attention. So I'm trying to put forth some kind of a metric that we can measure positive influences. Yeah, okay, so we didn't make an arrest today, but did anybody suffer any crime in my area while I was on watch? Nobody tracks the data that if you and I make an arrest and we now leave our area, how many crimes happen because you and I are not there?
Right.
We don't track it. And when you talk about statistics, it's very hard to quantify non-events. Like, it's hard to quantify the absence of crime, but us being there has been shown to reduce crime overall.
High visibility.
That's it.
Which goes to my next point. I mean, we're talking about all this progressive, beautiful stuff, which is positive, factually positive.
Yeah.
But in a lot of major agencies that I'm going to use the word defunding, that are being defunded, does that continue? I mean, I feel like when I watch this so-called defunding process. Now, I've heard the extreme by certain activists. We don't want police officers at our parks and schools.
Right.
They're on the level of child molesters, you know.
Right.
They've said this. It's factual. Google it, please. We don't want police officers near kids. Yep. We don't want them handling violent mental. And then you see that while we're already in the cut working on this cultural shift that I feel that we've been on the battlefield for years for,
yes,
that has come to a front. How does that make you feel as a person that values people out there, that values our citizens, that values the service that we're supposed to provide?
What's interesting is when the biggest cries I got for defunding were from people who looked like they lived in good areas. That's the part that I noticed.
Keep it real.
The people that were screaming at me, like I saw the kind of clothes they were wearing. I saw the kind of Apple Watches they had on. I'll be honest, with this whole civil unrest, the vast majority of vitriol and hate came from what appeared to be upper middle class white people.
Wow.
I had members of inner city communities, black community, Hispanic, come up to me afterwards and say, "Hey, Sarge, you did good, man. I like how you speak to people. Thank you." Like they don't represent us. And I had 2 members from a chapter in Black Lives Matter in Dallas that came down and watched me just take all this hate from this one white girl. And she was just, "I hope you die." And she looked up my address on the Google and started screaming out my address. And she leaves. And these people came in, they said, "Sarge, you're the kind of person I want coming to my radio call." And he shook my hand. Yeah. And he's like, "Just know we're out here not because of you. There's a whole system at play, and you are in the blender. But keep doing what you're doing."
What I appreciate about that time frame is I thought some of the public or our detractors with, I say, common sense, while they were marching, I'm proud of the officers from everywhere who took the time out to go out and engage and talk. Because remember, back in our time in the 90s, oh no, we do not engage.
Yes.
We actually got out there and engaged, some to an extreme, I believe, and some just went out there and had those conversations.
Yep.
And to see those people walk out, they had their signs. And then I had a kid put his sign down.
Wow.
And say thank you. And they take a picture with my kid.
Wow.
I changed minds right there. Not like, oh yay, police, because we were all. And I want your take on this too, with the righteous like killings of or the murder of George Floyd.
Sure.
Or these incidents that are legitimate. Mm-hmm. I tell people there were officers that were just as upset. I'm tired of controversy.
I agree. We could go back to Michael Brown, and you'll find a pretty heated debate on both sides.
Right.
You'll find this debate when everybody saw what happened in Minnesota. Everyone's like, "Ooh, that's messed up." Like Nobody said, well, if he would have just complied. Like, nobody said
that.
Nobody. Everybody said, I got so many things with in New York with Eric Gardner. I mean, there are so many things where you get such heated debate between cops. Even the incident in Atlanta stirred up some debate. The one flashpoint had 100% agreement. And so when people called me from Baltimore, hey, how you doing? How you guys doing? Yeah, we got contacts all over the country. How you doing? Hey, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Ain't not going to have. And then I look and I'm watching the news, I'm like, what? This happening here?
Wow.
Like, is this an old cut? Like, this
right, yeah. I had to rewind it.
I was flabbergasted at how this, because everybody was complete, like, that guy's going to jail.
Yeah.
Like, they're nothing.
I saw the most conservative cops.
Absolutely.
Standing next to me looking at that thing. Turn it off. I can't watch it.
Absolutely.
I saw that.
Absolutely. And people with a Trump flag on their pickup were like, dude, that's messed up.
That's jacked
up,
bro.
100%. That's why I thought this is not the flashpoint.
Oh, my God.
Minnesota's going to be in trouble, but we're fine.
Yeah, I initially thought that, but then when it started, there was a point, and this, and when we had to go out there was a point where this isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
And in fact, it caused I think maybe a rush to certain changes without dipping into the weeds of what we have been doing and saying, hey, that's Minnesota, but this is what we've been doing.
Yeah.
As opposed to, well, we're all devils.
Right.
All right, take that.
Right.
And you guys go along with that. That's okay.
It would have been nice. I would have liked to have seen somebody say from leadership or whatever, say, what happened in Minnesota is terrible. We, as a progressive agency, invite all of them to come to us and let us show you what we're doing. Let us show you the stuff we've done, because we've made these mistakes. We are not free of sin in this thing.
Exactly.
We just did it in the past, and we've moved on. We will continue to make mistakes. We're human.
We're human.
Doctors are making mistakes every day. Dentists make mistakes. Amazon delivery drivers make mistakes.
Priests.
Right? So long as there's human beings involved in any of these professions, mistakes will be made, and they'll be bad people.
Wow.
You can't get away from it. But can we pause, take a look in the rearview mirror, and see where we were? Right? Does anybody want a cop from 1985 showing up to their house?
No.
Nobody does at that point.
No.
But most people today would be like, I'll take any cop today. Like, the evolution. Does anybody want to drive a car from 1985? Of course not, right? Not. And same with policing. Like, we have come so far. And I think that does get undervalued. Although we have to do more, can we ever pause for a second and say, hey, good job. Keep going.
Right.
Just imagine
Keep progressing.
Right. Just imagine if every time your kid came home with a B, you got mad at him and said, well, this ain't an A. Well, yeah, but it's a B. It was a C last week, and now it's a B today. Good job. How do we get you to the next step? But let's celebrate the victory too. And I think that's the problem. I think if we are just pushing each other into these silos, and these silos are getting deeper, and the rhetoric's getting stronger, and we're whipping up into a frenzy. And then when people like you and I try to reach out, it's difficult.
It used to be easy, and I used to get this when we reach out. It'd be like, oh, I thank you for your perspective.
Yes.
Now it's like if you're spitting out like facts and data, that's the last thing people want to hear. Now, I'm not just talking about longform. I'm talking about politics. Yes. I'm talking about, we've been so cited, and that is a part of wellness, and I think we're all sick to a degree.
Yeah.
We're getting sick, and I'm not talking pandemic sick. I'm talking we're getting mentally sick, just listening, hearing something and saying that's it, as opposed to getting back to doing the research and saying, hey, let me check that out.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you know it, but when you left to that mid-city area, I was able to reestablish the CPAP.
Oh.
It was dead.
Really?
And that, believe it or not, was
great.
80% African American. Yep. Okay, it was unbelievable. No, there's no news cameras out there talking about that. And I could care less because I keep silent about my stuff. I like to bring on guests that have done major things. Right? I see you smiling. Well, I want to get. This is the reason why I love this guy. It's not just so much for what he's doing, and like I said, I can never fill those shoes. I'm doing my thing in my area. What I love about this guy. He has just been so real all of his life. Like he talks about me being a mentor and this, that, and the other. I call him. I'm sorry, man. I call him SpongeBob. All right.
Not because of how I look, obviously.
No, because this is a man who. The reason why he's here, I've never seen him have a bad day. He's always taken stuff on the chin and just had that bright SpongeBob smile and just let's go. You don't sound like that, by the way.
Right.
And even when we were teaching self defense for our agency. You know, no matter what, it was highly competitive, egos, this and that. He always stayed positive. But the funny thing about him, you know, he talks about look at me now, look at me back then. This guy was one of the most in shape people. His lungs are incredible. The most highly cardiovascular,
A lot of slow twitch muscle
fool on the department. So my first engagement with Tom was, in 2003 or 2004. You know, we were talking, and you know, I was known as the grappler at the time. So, Tom, I want to grapple with you, CJ. So we grappled, and I'm doing my thing. You know, I'm almost professional level, and there's a time and a place where you're looking at a watch. Is this guy tired yet? Right. You know, I'm doing my thing. You know,
You're winning. That's what he's saying. He's winning.
No, I'm just saying, I'm doing my thing, and he's never getting tired. And I'm like, what's wrong with this cat? Listen, that's the first time I got tired of winning. But wait, there's more. I said, I'm looking around. I'm asking my guys, man, what's wrong with this guy? This guy just never got tired. So then, you know, I was training for an event, and I needed guys to help me get in shape for runs. And this guy, we're running up this hill. I call it the MFN hill because it's the hill that goes like this, and then when you come up, there's another hill. And he's running, and he's jogging, and I'm like, oh, you know, because I'm all fast twitch, you know, I'm good for a block, right? But I got a box, right? So I'm doing this grappling tournament. Yep. So he comes up to me, goes, hey, Clee, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm fine, you know, because I'm still old school, right? He looks like, what's your heart rate, Clee? Oh, it's 140, you know. I said, what's your heart rate? And I'm like, oh, I'm like at 86. I'm like, oh my God, you know. And then this guy starts boxing, and one of my favorite moments, I'm just trying to humanize. We're human, you know. On the advertisement, I got a picture of him and his dog, man. That's life. That's being human. He asked me to train him for his first boxing match. And, dude, I'm going to let you take it from there. It was just like,
all right, so here's the thing. So it was actually my second.
That's right.
Because I lost my first.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, so I lost my first. And Clee saw the video. And I said, hey, man, I can't lose again. Like, that was bad. Like, it was rough. And he's like, okay, you're going to do everything I say, and you're going to do it this way. So I'm showing up at your studio, and you're with your cousin you threw at me. What is his name? I always forget his name. He was tall. He was lean. I forget his name. He had like a short guy that was real muscular, and then the tall kid. But anyway, man, you like threw me in with him, and then like, all right, you can't punch.
Julian.
Yes, okay, yeah. You're like, you can't punch because he'll beat you up. I'm like, what? You're like, but you got to avoid his punches. You got to wear him down because he's too big and strong. And we did all this, and so I'm fighting a big agency from the East Coast, a big East Coast West Coast rivalry. And I, if anybody wanted to see what it's like when Apollo started training Rocky. Yeah. And I'm not going to equate myself to Rocky. Him for Apollo maybe, but when he's doing the handball thing and like, you know, just learning speed and learning evasive. And I wasn't like that. I was kind of like an Irish South Side Chicago Irish boxer to come in and we're going to get at it and see who's chin stronger. And he's like, no, you're going to lose all the fights. Keep doing that. But you can be slick and you can be fast. And you taught me like how to be slick. You know, you taught like Detroit style and all this stuff. And man, I fought this kid from New York who was brash and tough. And it was like I saw the punch coming. You know, I was like that Spider-Man. We just like move out of the way. And I look back at you, you know, I look back. And I'm like, dude, this kid can't hit me. All that training with Julian and these other guys and just moving and moving. Like you could see the punches coming. It was the most. I have the gloves. Tatiana, I have the shorts from that fight and the gloves and I have the wraps and it's in a frame because it was such like that is the sweet science and that's what you taught me too.
My favorite part of that was like the last round when you were wearing this kid out with skill.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And do you remember what the ref came and said? Professional ref. He came to our corner. What did he say?
Came to our corner. He goes, "Listen, kid, you're all over this guy. He's done over there. You're gonna knock him out. So go easy on him. We're all fighting on the same team here. There's no reason to go crazy. Just go easy and lighten up on him." So this is like what I see. I see Jack right here, and then Jack goes away, and then I see this right here. And I'm like, can I cuss on that?
Yeah, you know what the hell? I said, you motherfucker, don't you better get, you know,
yeah.
Because I'm like, man, there's no mercy.
No,
you know,
we're boxing.
We're boxing.
Yeah,
you know. So I was like, yeah, ref. Oh yeah. God bless you, ref. You know. And then I turned right to Tom and said, you better go in there. And
I was more scared he was going to hit me if I didn't.
It was amazing. You know, we fed off each other so much.
Yeah.
We were teaching up north somewhere.
San Jose.
And
amazing.
And he says, Clee, I know you're getting ready for your grappling tournament, whatever. We're gonna go on a little run.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, a little run, I can do a little run, and my runs got better.
Yeah, of course.
1 mile turns into like 10.
Yeah, we ran.
And Tom did the old blood pressure thing. I'm still at 150 and he's still coasting at 80. Guys, we got to get beyond this black, white cultural thing and understand that we can all benefit from each other. That's all I'm trying to say. And when you get people that are open-minded and are ready to have these discussions as brothers, take off the skin as brothers and get real, then that's where growth comes from. And that's how this community heals and gets better. We're not talking about spirit, just fitness. We're talking about life. Let's kill the stress by having these conversations. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm all about the youth, Tom. Now, you came from a tough community, a tough side, and you probably told you were nothing, getting beat up and this stuff.
Right.
How important was education for you to get where you're at today?
It's interesting. I didn't realize how valuable it was until I started to get educated. And, my grandmother said, get a good job as a garbage man. Like, I love my grandma. She basically raised me. And she said, get yourself a good job as a city garbage man. You make $18 an hour, and this will be good for you. And I'll just follow the same pattern that everyone followed in that neighborhood, which is like many other neighborhoods across the country. And I never thought I could be in it. My grandmother said, people like us don't go to college. Like, you don't go to college. You get yourself a good city job, breaking curbs or picking up garbage. And I exposed myself to the university, and all I was doing was basically taking paper and putting paper into a printer at one of the large universities in Chicago. And little by little, I got exposed to other people, and I saw education, and I saw the value in it. So the long answer to that question is, education is valuable, and it doesn't just come from the classroom. There's a traditional education, which is great. Do I put these on?
Yeah, go ahead and put that on. I'll give you guys, we have a phone call.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm really excited. Well, hey, tell us your name and where you're from, or if you're anonymous, whatever. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation.
Hi, I just had a question for your guest, Tom. Tom, what advice can you give someone about going into law enforcement, living in the current time that everything's going on with politics, the changing of policy? What can you give someone who's interested in law enforcement? What advice can you give them?
Absolutely. And what I would say is go in for the right reasons and make sure you really investigate those reasons. There's many benefits to doing this job, and there's going to be many hardships and sacrifices. Understand that getting into this line of work, it's a calling. And I don't mean that sort of in this esoteric mind. I mean, you want to get into here because you want to do something that's difficult. You want to do something that's going to make a difference at the end of your time on this planet. You're going to make a difference. Don't worry about the climate. There's never a great time to join. There's never a bad time to join. Whenever it's your time, because if you want to do this, it's a great time. Because that's what's going to propel you. So if you want to do this, or if somebody in your family wants to do it, it's a great time. Don't let the noise detract you, because the neat thing about policing is when you're in that car with your partner next to you, you have a lot of autonomy. There's a lot of noise out there, but you have a lot of autonomy to impact the lives of people, to make incredible changes. And it'll never make the news. It'll never make the news.
Yeah,
but
good stuff doesn't.
Yeah, but you will have, and you will feel a sense of satisfaction and reward that is hard to mimic.
And you know what? And I'll chime in on that from my experience. I've been on almost 25 years. You are going to have your unrest. You're going to have your controversy. You're going to be in it. And guess what? I'll tell you, that grows you beyond your career choice. Mm-hmm. It grows you into other things. You'll have a perspective about human nature that no one else will have if you do it right. And Absolutely. Do it right means do it from the heart. How would you want to be treated, and you treat others? You'll be fine. You're gonna go through how we've been through 3 or 4 controversies in our world, nationwide controversies that we had to deal with, and it turned you into the professor. It's turned me into different things. It's forced us to be teachers, and it's just an amazing thing. So hopefully does that answer your questions? Does that push you in the right direction?
Yes, that pushes me in the right direction. And also, I do want to say that I really enjoyed when Tom said that the way that you have to talk when you're, for example, in an interview, going through the process, is you need to make it seem like, well, they need you, basically. What are you going to do to make a change? So I thought that was great for Tom to say that. And also, I'm surprised that I haven't met you, Tom. I'm pretty sure Caesar knows who this is.
Yes, I can tell by your voice and your excitement that, yes, you know who I
Yes.
am. And yes, and I'm very proud. I want you to keep plugging away, and I'm glad you got this type of encouragement. And yes, God bless you. Now, I got to take a quick minute to give a shout out to Zay. He's my nephew, but he's more than my nephew. It's not because I'm his uncle. The guy's he's got his album out called Before and After. Let me tell you something. It is the truth. I mean, this kid's been working on it for a while, and it's picking up steam. So definitely want to check that out. It's Before and After. XAE. Look at that pretty boy. Yeah, it looks like his uncle a little bit, which looks like his daddy, who's my twin brother. Anyway, all right.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for your time.
All right.
Tom,
Pleasure,
Hopefully
yeah.
I get to meet you in person.
I hope so.
I hope so too. Yeah, I'm glad that encouraged you, because I know you've been up and down about it. I know it's been challenging, and hopefully I'm telling you, I know so many good spirits, and I want the public to know too. Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank
All
you.
right, bye-bye. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. So Tom, we're getting close to closing here. With what's going on today in today's times, and we may feel like a lot of negative things may be happening, but we still got to think positive. Mm-hmm. Deal with the things that we have to deal now. Like currently, I'm working on getting new ways of getting more police training in the realms of jiu-jitsu, because there's no punches, no kicks. 10 years from now, when we're all this said and done, what do you think we will have accomplished if we keep going in a progressive manner?
Man, so many things I want to see. What I'd like for people to understand in policing is that the human being is so much more than their worst mistake. We are a collective of experiences.
Yes.
I know that the trajectory of my life could have been bumped one way had I engaged in something that may have been a criminal act, just with the way I grew up. It was just, there's so many factors that come in and nudge you this way and that way, and it's chance and luck. If we remember to stop judging everybody by the worst of themselves, and remember, like, this is a person. This is a person that's lived a life you don't know. And can we start looking at, like I said in the bio, like, I'm done with like punishment. Like, I understand there's certain consequences for actions.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? I get that. But can we start looking at redemption? How do we start building better people that have had hard goes at it? That's what I'd like. I'd like for policing to expand its reach and not just focus on punishment, but how can we rebuild society? Not just protect it, but how do we actively rebuild it together?
Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
Oh, wow. We got another caller, Tom.
That's great.
Hey, mentorship moments. Each one teach one. You can be anonymous, or you can state your name. Got a question? Let us have it. I got the guest.
Okay, my name is Bruno Olmo. I'm currently in active duty Army station in Hawaii. My question is, I'm very terrible in interviewing. What would be the best advice your guest can give me to improve my interview? Because I want to be in law enforcement.
Oh my God, that's something we both. I once was a recruiter, years ago, and Tom is just an amazing speaker. We can even get your number off air. But the trick to any job, and that's the way I was able to get people to sign up for law enforcement. I painted it as a job. You have to present yourself as why you're the best for wherever you're going. I could say I saved 10 cats from trees, but if I don't say how that relates to the job that I'm going, then I'll lose every question to the person that is. It doesn't matter if you're a great speaker or not. Your ability to tie in your desire and who you're working for, doing your researches and closing every question with how you would benefit them and not just leaving it unopened, per my experience, and Tom will give some feedback before we close, is one of the best ways to go. Your heart doesn't fake the funk. I know some people that speak very well that I've seen in interviews and saying, no, that guy's not ready. Tom, what do you think?
So great advice. And Bruno, thank you for your service. We appreciate that.
Yes.
And here's what I would say. Speaking and interview skills is just that. It's a skill. So I wasn't good at jiu-jitsu, but I did it, and we got better at it.
Yep.
I wasn't good at boxing. I did it. I didn't come out doing triathlons. I had to work at it, Bruno. So what I encourage you is speak more. Engage in conversations. Talk more. And talk more to people you don't know. Start up conversations with people. Hey, how you doing? What's your day going? Whatever it is, whatever gives you the opportunity to work on that skill set. I would say engage in that. Call into radio shows. Just like this.
Just like you did.
Yeah, call in. This is a good way to engage. Anytime you can engage, you're working on your ability to speak.
You know, I did. And to answer your question, I had to do that. And guess who the person I asked to help me talk to people? It was Tom. I said, Tom, man, how do I become a social butterfly? Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
And he gave me the exact points. So you know what? Leave your number. I'll make sure, I promise you, I do this with all my guests because I can impart some wisdom and we can give you some advice. And I will contact you after the show, okay? We got to close out. But this has been a great show. Tom, thank you, brother. Because people need to hear some truth. People need to hear not what they like or dislike. They just need to hear some truth. So now when the arguments flow, but wait a minute, I had this conversation. Guys, this is Mentorship Moments. Each one, teach one. We are the village. Next week, we're going to talk, in 2 weeks, we're going to talk about holiday eating. I got some raw food experts. It's health and wellness and nutrition. God bless. Peace. Mentorship Moments.
It happened.